Hey guys, this is Shadowhand from Black Shadow Game Hacking, and this is going to be the first video in a series of videos that's about C++ programming. So in this first video I'm going to go over the different data types that are basic in C++. I'm also going to go over what the preprocessor is and what it does, and preprocessing directives, and how to execute those in your programs. And I'm also going to show you how to handle the input and output stream. So the first things first, let's go over the data types before we do anything else. So actually this website right here, cplus.com, is going to be one of your best friends as you learn to program and continue on the road to programming. There's a load of information on this site. Everything's very well documented, functions and all that. So it's a great reference to have at your disposal. So onto the basic and fundamental data types in C++, right down here. So over here it shows a list of the names, what they're called, a small description of what they are, how much space they take up in your computer, in the random access memory or the RAM, and the range of numbers that they can reference. So a character is used for words or letters, and later on I will introduce the concept of an array, which will allow you to store a word or a sentence inside of a character array. A single character can only hold a single character, pretty much. So that's why it's the size of 1 byte and 1 byte only. Now a short int is a short integer. This is 2 bytes, so half the size of a regular integer. And then it shows you the values for a signed and unsigned integer. Signed just cuts it in half and allows you to use negative values, versus unsigned where it's the full spectrum, except it's only available in a positive value. So here you can see an integer takes up 4 bytes, double the size of this, and actually well over double the range. And then you have long integers, which go up to, what is that? Yeah, over a billion. Well over a billion. And then you have Boolean values, which are either true or false, right here. Or actually, they can be represented with zeros or ones. 0 being false, 1 being true. But you can assign true or false values to them in C++, which is really nice and handy. Then you have floats, floating point numbers, which are 4 bytes. These are used for decimal point values. And then doubles, double precision floating point number. So it's a more advanced version of a float. And it's also a little bit more accurate. But it all comes down to what you're going to be doing. I've seen people use floats for certain things, doubles for other things, but it doesn't really matter. And then where you see the short and this long, these just modify the range of the values that can be held inside a variable of type short int or long int, and etc. Wide characters or wcharts I don't really use, so I really have no experience with that. But most of the programs I've seen written don't actually bother with this anyway, so it's not too big of a deal. And since you're just starting out, I wouldn't worry about this. All I would worry about are characters, regular ints, booleans, and just floats and doubles. So now that we have all the data types explained, let's go over how to create your own project. So after you've downloaded, installed, and ran Visual Studios or Visual Express, what you're going to want to do is generally you'll start off with a start menu, and over here in this area you'll see new project. Either click on that, or if that option is not available, go to File, New, and then Project. And then over here in these tabs, you're going to want to make sure Visual C++ is expanded. Go down to General and create an empty project. Give it whatever name you'd like, whatever save location you would like to save it to, and then create a new solution. You don't want to add to an existing one, just make a new one. And then the solution name will be defaulted to whatever you decide the name would be. So go ahead and hit OK. I've already created mine with the name of Tutorial 01. And the first thing we're going to want to do is add in a new CPP file. So right click on Source Files, go to Add, and add in a new item. Now on this list you're going to see a whole bunch of items here, or file types that you can choose from: XML, text, bitmaps, whole bunch of good stuff. But for now, just pay attention to the C++ file ending with the .cpp extension. You can name it whatever you'd like. I'm just going to name mine main. Then go ahead and add it in. So now I'm going to introduce the idea of pre-processing. So what pre-processing is it's something that goes on behind the scenes before your file is actually compiled and all your code has been added to the program. So pre-processing takes care of basically what it says. It pre-processes information so that it's ready to be used when it is called upon. So how to access the preprocessor is use the pound symbol. And once you put in the pound symbol, you'll notice that it's a different color from regular text, which is just black. But go ahead and put in the pound symbol. The first thing we're going to do is include the iostream, or input-output stream. Now here you can see I have a little pop-up that shows up with include quotation marks or include brackets. You're going to want to choose the one with brackets. I'll explain when you use the quotation marks in a later video lesson. For now it's not important, so just ignore it. So make sure you just go ahead and include with the opening and closing bracket, and then just type in iostream, and there you go. Now as you see all these little boxes pop up, that was below this, and also with the quotation marks and the braces, that's due to a program called Visual Assist X, or Visual Assist 10 that I have running right now. It's a really handy program. I would strongly recommend getting it if you're going to be serious about programming. It doesn't really cost all that much, and it's a time saver. And it also helps you with finding errors. It makes it a lot more easy. If you have an error in your code, it'll turn the rest of the text. It'll do what Microsoft Word does and give it all a red underline, saying all this isn't going to work because you're missing something above this somewhere. So it's really neat, and it definitely comes in handy. Now the next order of business is to include the standard namespace, and in order to do that we have to type in using namespace std followed by a semicolon. Now after every single line of code you do, you're going to want to put in a semicolon. If you don't, you'll have a syntax error. I can't remember the exact reference value for it or what number it is, but I will show you after we've built our program, compiled it, and ran it. I'm going to save the error block to show you guys what all that is towards the end of this video. So after you've included your namespace, go ahead and create a main function. I'm going to make a void main function which does not return a value at all. I'll show you what happens if you have a value returnable function in a future video, but for now just go with void main and then put in opening and closing parenthesis right after it. After you've done that, you want to put in opening and closing brace in, So this is one of the handy things that Visual Assist does. It'll automatically create a closing brace right after you put in a opening brace. Your copy of Visual Express or Visual Studios probably won't do that right as you take it after a fresh install. So after you have that opening and closing brace, since I've already gone over a little bit of the data types, right now that isn't important. Once we start getting into input stream or inputting data from the user to the computer, the fundamental data types will become more important. So for now, let's print out a simple message saying hello, this is my name, and this is my first program. So in order to do that, we have to let the program know that it's going to output something to the console window. So that's when you use cout. So cout is just, it can be viewed as a sort of function. So as you see your CRT data 2, which outputs it to the CRT monitor, etc. And then we use the output stream operator, which is two less than symbols right in front of each other. So treat these two as one entity. They aren't two separate entities. They're one physical being, essentially. So after you've done that, go ahead and put in a pair of quotation marks. Note that it always has to be a pair. If it is not, you will end up with a compiler error, and it'll think that the rest of your code that you have after this point is all part of that same message you're trying to output to the screen, when it really isn't. So let's just see out, hello, I'm Shadowhand, and this is my first program. So after you've done that, go ahead and put in another output stream operator and type in endl. Now what endl stands for is end line, and put a semicolon after it, of course, because after every single line of code we have to have a semicolon, otherwise we will end up with syntax errors. So endl means end line, but there's also another way to do this, and the other way to do that is a /n after your message. So you can't just type in n or endl here. The program will output that to the window. The reason for the / is so that the program or the compiler knows this isn't actually part of this message. This needs to do something else that isn't defined anywhere else. So you can do that, or you can do the endl, as I like to do, just because it looks a little, it looks neater in my opinion. Now after we've done that, we're going to make a call to a system function. So we put in system and then open and close parentheses. Now this const character pointer, which I'll go on about in a future lesson command, this is what you call a parameter. So I'll explain more about parameters once we actually get into writing our own functions and how it works. For now, don't worry about that. Just put in a pair of quotation marks and just type in pause. So what this is going to do is pause the program after this line of code is executed. If you leave out the pause, what's going to happen is that your program is just going to do a very quick flash. You won't actually get to see what happens, and this prevents that. So, and I'll show you guys what happens if you remove that right after we do this, right after we run this program. So let's go ahead and hit F5. You'll come up with this window, and it'll say, do you want to build it? Yes. And here's the program. Hello, I'm Shadowhand, and this is my first program. So the endl that you saw right here takes it and moves this, press any key to continue to the next line. If I were to take that out, what would end up happening is, as you're about to see, it'll end up moving the, so it's all on the same line right here, as you can tell. So it's just makes your program look a little messier if you don't do that. And since we like to be clean about things, we're just going to say new line. So this will do the same thing that endl did. Just to give you guys a visual example. So looks a lot cleaner. This is on the next line, and it doesn't look all jumbled up back here, and it doesn't split up the text window. So that takes care of that, and that was your introduction to the output stream. Now what we're going to do is go over the input stream. So for now, what we're going to do is let's grab the user's favorite number. So let's do a cout message, cout output stream operator, a pair of quotation marks. What is your favorite number? And then just put in a space there to make it look a little bit cleaner. Semicolon after every line of code. And now we're going to use cin. So the stream insertion operator is the exact opposite of the output operator. It's two greater than symbols, and like the output stream operator, this should be treated as a single entity or a single physical being. It isn't two separate pieces. This is one part. Now, before we actually grab that, we have to say this is the variable we're going to use to write that information to. So let's make a variable of type, let's do shortint, because that doesn't take up too much space in memory. So we'll make a shortint and call it favorite number. Now, a good practice when you are learning to program or just getting into it is to learn to assign your variables right as they're declared at the beginning of your program. So in order to do that, I'm going to say favorite number equals 0, and then end that with a semicolon. So this is going to make sure that favorite number isn't garbage when you first create your program. Things can get messy if you learn to not assign stuff at the beginning. So it's really a good habit to get into. So now that we have our variable declared, favorite number of type shortint, we are going to have the user enter in what their favorite number is into favorite number. So now that we have that, how do we go about telling the user what they entered in and what value is stored inside favorite number? In order to do that, you call cout once again, put in the output stream operator. Let's put in a message stating what they entered. So you entered colon and a space just to make it cleaner and look better. Now there are multiple ways to do this, and I'll show you multiple formatting options. For now, let's stick everything to one line to make things simple. So another stream output operator. Now we call in favorite number. And now we're going to say end line. So after I run this, it's going to ask me for my favorite number, and then it will echo it out back to me. So let's compile and build this program. And I've built it. Here we go. So I'll just say my favorite number is 32. And the program tells me I've entered in 32. And now it's calling the system pause, which says press any key to continue to exit the program. So that takes care of entering in data and echoing it back to the user. Now, so I was going to talk about different formatting options for using the cout output stream operator and outputting long messages to the console window. So what I like to do is, and this is my rule of thumb, I will generally keep 3 output stream operators to a line. So if I wasn't showing this to you guys as an example, I would just leave this like this, because it already has 3 output stream operators. Once you go beyond 3, what I like to do is just hit enter and line up all my output stream operators just to make it look nice and neat. But as you can see, before this was all one line, and right now it's still just one line of code. The only reason I've blocked it like this is to make it look nicer. So if I go back here, you'll notice that it's the same thing again, with a semicolon at the end of a single line of code. So in my opinion, that looks a lot better as opposed to having one cout and then having a whole bunch of stream output operators that can go all the way over here or beyond the edge of the screen. I just think that tends to get a little bit annoying after a while. So now let's delete all this code about the favorite number, and let's start working with words, with characters. So instead of using a regular char, which only stores one character, or introducing you to character arrays, which can store up to, well, the possibilities for that are infinite, depending on how much memory you actually have in your computer. But for now, we're going to just focus on using a library called string. So what we're going to do is say #include, and we need to include the string library, or the string header file. Without that, the compiler's not going to know what a string is. So just type in #include string. I think there's another library called cstring, but it doesn't really matter which one you use. They're both the same thing. So after you've included string, what we're going to say is we want a variable of type string, right? So string is the variable type, and let's call it varstring, and just end it with a semicolon. So strings, I don't believe, can be initialized, so I'm not going to bother doing that. I think last time I tried, I ended up with some error or a warning, which didn't really look good, so just don't bother initializing them. All the string operations should be self-contained, so you shouldn't have to worry about it. What it basically is a self-managing unit for using dynamic memory, or dynamically allocated memory, as opposed to using character array. This will automatically do it for you. So variable string, and let's ask for the user's name. So again, cout output stream operator, pair of quotation marks. Enter your full name, and put a space after that. End it with a semicolon, and then cin input stream operator. Var string, because that's what we're writing to. We are writing to the variable var string, and then we're going to echo out what the user inputted. So let's just say at echo colon space stream output operator again, var string, and then you have system pause down here and whatnot. So let's go ahead and run this. So if I enter in my full name, Shadowhand, it'll echo Shadowhand. Now notice here that I didn't put in the endl, so like before, it all becomes all jumbled up. So for the sake of cleaning up our program, remember to add in the endl back here. Or the other option is you can put in another set of quotation marks and put in /n, as they both do the same thing. So now if I run this, and if I try to grab, say, more than a single word, or say the user has a space between their first and last name, if I try to do shadow hand like this, it's only going to grab shadow. And the reason for that is because it stops grabbing information after a space. So when it comes to echo, it just says shadow. So in order to prevent that, what we have to do is use a function called getLine. Now this is a global function, so you don't have to worry about including another file for this. But just do getLine, and we're taking something from cin, and we need to input it into var string. Now the delimiting character doesn't matter since we're not reading from a file, and we're actually just inputting information from the user. But what you can do just to be safe is put in a pair of quotation marks and put in the new line character, which also can be viewed as the return key on the keyboard. So this knows to stop inputting information after that. Now we put a semicolon after this, and this should compile and build just fine. Oh, I guess not. So I guess this version doesn't take in that third parameter. So just build it with the cin and var string. Now if we build this, it will accept the multiple word answer being written to it. So if I type in shadow hand now, and I'll just put a period in there just for fun, it'll echo out shadow hand with the space and everything. So that's just one of the tricks to programming in C++. When you start getting spaces inside everything and you're trying to capture it, the input stream operator doesn't actually support those. So for spaces you have to use functions like getLine or cin.get, which you would call like this. And then parameter list, you put in all your parameters, what you're writing to or what you're grabbing the information from and all that. But like I said, for now that's not really too important. But feel free to mess around with it if you'd like. Now I did tell you that I was going to go over the different errors at the end of this video. So I'm going to do that now. If I get rid of a single semicolon, what happens when you try to build it is you get you get this error of void should be preceded by a semicolon, error C2144. And since there is no semicolon before the void, it's not going to continue to compile the program. So we need to put that back in there. Now if I take it out from in here, or any of the ones from in here actually, let's just get rid of two of them, it'll come with error C2146. Now that says you're missing semicolons before this C out, and you're also missing a semicolon before the identifier system. Now if I take that one out too, it'll just say the same error. The one before the closing brace tends to have a different reference number, but it's all the same thing. It's just telling you forgot to put in a colon. So there's that, and then variable string has one too. Now if you forget to add in a certain library or a header file, here's what's going to happen. You'll end up with an error and it's going to say everything's undeclared. It doesn't know where any of this came from. It knows nothing about the standard namespace because nothing's using it up here. Doesn't know what a string is, doesn't know what cout is because this is part of the iostream header file that we had included earlier. And since it doesn't include iostream or string, it doesn't know what's inside of the standard namespace. So if we add all that back in, build it again, it'll succeed in building it and the program will run just like it was meant to. So that's the end of the first video, and as far as a challenge assignment goes or something to just work on, I would say try to make a program that uses multiple variables as opposed to one for the full name. So have the user write their first name to a separate variable and have them write their second name to another variable. So how you go about doing that is string something like first name then go to another line, say string again, last name, and then with a semicolon again. Or you could just do this, string, comma, space, last name. So that's another way to address the variable. And then ask for their age, date of birth, and you can store all this information in different different variables. And I mean, I'll upload a source code for or a source file that'll show how I took care of that, and just make something like a like an address card or something that would go inside of an address book. And then later on we will build upon that address book and morph it into an even bigger program. But for now, I mean, that's all I'm going to say you could possibly work on. And I mean, go to cplus.com, read up on there, explore. It's a really great site and a great reference to learn from, for certain. So go ahead and do that. And have fun and good luck. And I'll see you guys when I upload episode 2. Alright, take care.